All right, old school NBA fans, self-researched, NBA facts. Got another video for you. As always, thanks to anybody who watches my videos, subscribes to my channel. I really appreciate it. In this video here, I've heard a lot of chatter, even recently, about how the 90s was a watered-down era. And because of that, the teams had inflated records, but weren't really as good as their records indicated. Okay, so we're going to take a look at that. I did touch on this a little bit in a video a few weeks back, but I did not go into depth like this video is. What I decided to do was compare those teams to teams with the same or similar record in the 2000s and the 2010s. This is all subjective. There's no way to prove anything. But at the end of it, you tell me what's the better team. So the first one I got, which is fresh out of the first batch of expansion, which happened in 89 and then the 88-89 and then 89-90 seasons. The team that had the best record in that time period before the next batch of expansion was these guys.
They won it all against the Los Angeles Lakers. Jordan with the spin and the bucket. Mark Jackson is back for Greg Anthony. Oh, good look from Jordan. Against the Bulls. Michael Jordan. From the field. Jordan again. Now Jordan posting up. Goes to the fadeaway. Through the foul.
The 92 Bulls, 67-15. The number one net rated team. They won the championship, okay? They had a tough playoff run. It was not easy. There were some good teams in there. So, obviously, in the semifinals, they played the Knicks, and it was a 7-game series. The Bulls blew the Knicks out in Game 7. But it was a hard-fought series. A couple pretty iconic plays in there, like Xavier McDaniel and Jordan going forehead to forehead. The one where Jordan dunked on Ewing and stood over him. You know, there was some stuff like that going on. Then in the conference finals, Cleveland, they beat them in 6 games. They were tough. They were not easy. And Jordan had to hit a last-second shot to win it in 6. They beat Portland in a hard-fought series in 6 games. And in Game 6, the Bulls were down by, I think, almost 20 points to start the fourth quarter. Came back to win, though. It was not easy. People have this delusion that they were not very good in that era, whatever. They're sorely mistaken. So here's my next team that I have going up against the 92 Bulls, had the exact same record. The 2007 Dallas Mavericks. They were 67-15, the second net rated team. They lost in the first round to Golden State, a 42-40 team. The biggest upset in NBA history, going by the record, 25 win differential. A joke, I think, but hey, if you guys like them, you think they're a great team, let me know. The next team to compare is the 2016 San Antonio Spurs. The number one net rated team, 67-15, 40-1 at home in the regular season. They lost in the semifinals to Oklahoma City in 6 games. And this is a team, like I said, 40-1 at home in the regular season, 3-2 at home in the playoffs. So obviously they fell apart, whatever you want to call it. Only the second team ever who won 66 or more games and failed to reach the conference finals. The other one, the 2007 Dallas Mavericks. So you tell me, out of those 3 teams, the 92 Bulls, the 2007 Mavericks, or the 2016 Spurs, you got 3 choices there, all 67-15. Which team do you think was the best of those 3? Forget about the result. Just what do you think was the best team? And again, I mean, this all comes down to the 90s is watered down, inflated records and all that. So the 90s team should be vastly inferior to the other teams because the record was inflated. They weren't as good as the record indicated. That's the narrative that's out there. All right. So the next batch of teams, the first one, here we go.
From a bench player.
3 in a row for Vinnie Johnson, and the lead is cut to 1 now.
Vinnie Johnson had a tough job.
Vinnie Johnson with 1 second to go. His shot is good. With 7/10 of a second. Timeout, Portland.
But to be the guy who made the shot that, frankly, made the Pistons back-to-back champions.
Yep, the 1990 Pistons. That was Vinnie Johnson coming off the bench, lighting the Trailblazers up, the third guard. They just completed the back-to-back. They were 59-23, the third net-rated team. They were obviously the champions. In the conference finals, they played the Bulls. They won in 7 games. There was some issues with the Bulls, like John Paxson missed that game. Scottie Pippen had a migraine. But the Bulls supporting cast, players 2 through 6 with the most minutes played, shot 11 for 57. That's the worst since the merger in a closeout game. Pretty bad. So they beat the team that won the next 3 championships. That would be Chicago Bulls, who obviously, they won in 91, 92, 93 and all that. And they also beat a team that was in the finals just 2 years later, Portland. They were no pushover. Another 59-win team that was definitely no slouch. That's who they beat in the finals. So, again, you tell me, but I think that the 90 Pistons were a damn good team. Let's compare them to the 2009 Orlando Magic. They were 59-23 also, the 4th net-rated team. They lost in the finals to the Lakers in 5 games. Okay, that's fine. In the conference finals, they knocked off Cleveland, who was 66-16 in 6 games. And then, like I said, in the finals, lost to the Lakers, who were 65-17. Pretty good records for those teams. But that's what they did. They had the same record as the 1990 Pistons, who allegedly have an inflated record. How about the 2018 Raptors? Also 59-23. They were the number 1 seed. They were the 2nd net-rated team. They got swept in the conference semifinals. So again, those 3 teams you got right there. The 1990 Pistons, the 2009 Orlando Magic, or the 2018 Raptors. You tell me which was the best out of those 3. And then we have this team at 64-18.
Conference finals, they matched up with the Stockton and Malone Utah Jazz. Game 1, hammered Utah, 102-72, 6 Sonics in double figures. They won a close one in Game 2, 91-87. Utah responded in Game 3, bodied them by 20, 96-76. The Sonics, though, in Game 4 survived 88-86. Stockton had a chance to win the game with a 3, but it came up just short, so you're thinking, all right, just gotta win one more game. Well, that's easier said than done.
Yeah, the Seattle Supersonics had to scare their fan base one more time, because in Game 5 they had a chance to win the series, make it to the finals. They're at their place in Key Arena, the new arena, but they'd lose the game. Gary Payton had a chance to tie the game at the end, but he'd miss it. Then they'd go back to Utah, where the Jazz took care of business, just dominated 118-83. This set up a win-or-go-home Game 7 to make it to the finals. And this game came down to the wire. Sean Kemp hit some clutch free throws late, and the mailman did not deliver. He choked the game with 2 free throws at the end, and the Sonics survived to advance to their first finals since 1979.
Seattle Supersonics. Those guys made a video entitled, "That was the best team to not win a championship." I don't know if I'd go that far, but you can see that a lot of people feel pretty strongly about it. They swept the 2-time champion Houston Rockets in the semifinals. They were the 2nd net-rated team. They won in the conference finals. They beat Utah in 7, as you just saw in that video clip, and then lose to the Bulls in 6 games. They were a very tough matchup for the Bulls. They just presented a lot of problems for the Bulls. I think a lot of it had to do with, like, Sam Perkins, Detlef Schrempf, because of their length. They had really good defenders on the perimeter. Hersey Hawkins, Vincent Askew, David Wingate were actually pretty good defenders. And, of course, Gary Payton. So they had it all. They had a monster power forward that year, Sean Kemp. He was awesome. So you got that team. The next team is the 2006 Detroit Pistons, also 64-18. They were the 2nd net-rated team also. They lost in the conference finals to Miami, the eventual champion, in 6 games. So you tell me, That's the second team to consider of the three. The third team is, how about the 2018 Houston Rockets? They were actually a 65-17 team. They were the number one net rated team in the NBA. If you feel the NBA was really strong in that era, maybe that's the team to pick. They lost in the conference finals in 7 to Golden State. However, Chris Paul was out in games 6 and 7 when that mattered. I guarantee it. If Paul was there, most likely, I think they probably win in 7, maybe win in 7. I don't know. We're never going to know for sure. But anyway, those are the three teams. If you think the NBA was in a really strong place in 2018, maybe Houston's the way to go. I personally thought the NBA was at its weakest that I ever saw between 2015 and about probably 2021, 2022, somewhere around there. That to me was the weakest brand of basketball I personally have ever seen in my life. But again, this is all subjective. You guys tell me. And here's the last team right here.
As at home last month, but the only score left to even was with the Sonics, and that meant Sean Kemp put the Sonics up by 3. Not to be outdone. Shaquille O'Neal fading away on the nice roll at home. The Magic down 1. Later some defense. Dennis Scott picks off the Gary Payton pass, and then no look to Penny. He can get up, and the Magic up 8 after 1. Second quarter, Magic break it out. John Concact to Scott for 3. By 28, they led. They led by 26 at halftime. Third quarter, Shaq on D. Hersey Hawkins to drive. Denied. Later, more Shaq working down low and then working over Irvin Johnson. Magic by 25 again. Later, more defense kept the drive. Shaq just takes it away from him like he's playing in a high school game. The Magic, they roll, and so does Shaq. 38 points and 13 rebounds.
96 Orlando Magic. You saw how they just throttled the Seattle team that, some people think that was the best team never to win a championship. They throttled them. 60-22. They were the 5th net rated team. But you got to remember, Shaq was out 28 games that season. He missed like the first 21 games of the season, and they were 17-4 without Shaq. Penny was really doing a great job leading the charge there. They lost in the Eastern Conference Finals to the Bulls. The Bulls were on a mission, a 72-10 team. I know they got swept and all, but they really, Horace Grant said in The Last Dance, we were no match for the Bulls that year. So the next team to consider actually is a 61-21 team, the 2007 Phoenix Suns, the 3rd net-rated team. They lost in the semifinals to San Antonio. Amari Stoudemire got suspended in Game 5 of that series and may have changed the fortunes. We don't know. They were a really good team, that's for sure. They were, no doubt about it. Also, a 60-22 record was the 2015 Atlanta Hawks. They were the 4th net-rated team in the NBA. They had 4 All-Stars on that team. There's only 12 All-Stars in each conference. That means 1/3 of all the All-Stars in the entire Eastern Conference was on the Atlanta Hawks. I believe it was Kyle Korver, Jeff Teague, Al Horford, and Paul Millsap. I think that's right. Well, they got swept in the Eastern Conference Finals, kind of like the Orlando did, except for they didn't get swept by, the greatest team of all time. They got swept by the 2015 Cleveland Cavaliers. I mean, were they a good team? Sure, they were a good team. Were they a great team? No. They were very beatable, but they were a good team, no doubt about it. But you're a 60-win team. So you tell me, 2015 Atlanta Hawks, 2007 Phoenix Suns, or 96 Orlando Magic? Your choice. Which one of those 3 were the better? So I gave you 4 multiple choices there. Let me know. But if your answer is anything other than the teams in the 90s were vastly inferior to these other teams, then this narrative is for no other reason to destroy the 90s, and I'm sure it's going after Michael Jordan to try to diminish his era. But again, if the records are inflated, then why aren't those teams much better than the 90s teams? See what I'm saying? It doesn't wash. It doesn't make any sense. So you guys tell me, out of those 4, tell me who was the best out of the 4. I'm dying to know. So thank you guys very much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked the video, please hit the like button. If you wouldn't mind sharing the video, that would be excellent. I try to give daily content, so if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would really appreciate that. That's it. Until next time.